Hello everyone, GoldenNova here, and it's time to continue our coverage of Photon Hypernova with another sensational archetype that's in store for some legacy support. This time, we'll be covering a deck piloted by who I feel should be the real rival of the Arc V series. That's right, I know what they were trying to do with Yugioh, a real level-headed corpo type who's above everyone else, very Seto Kaiba, but that kind of attitude doesn't really mesh with Yuya's quirky, I'm not like other duelists personalities. He needs a foil that's just as flamboyant, but with an arrogant streak a mile wide. Someone with glitz, glamour, who was destined for the stage. That's right, today we shine a light on the enigmatic Silvio Sawatari and this troupe of terrific terrors, the Abyss Actors. Premiering in the November 2016 deck build pack, Destiny Soldiers, and don't at me on this one, it's a side set with Abyss Actors, Destiny Heroes, and Dark Lords. That's 3 themes, it's a deck build pack. Abyss Actors and their accompanying support, the Abyss Scripts, are an appropriately flashy theme that's never quite been meta, but have more than a few effects that make them a blockbuster hit. The question now is, will our new cards live up to the hype? Well, only one way to find out. We're gonna sit through the curtain call to see all of our actors, read the reviews to see how they perform, then find a few friends we can get to read some lines. It's time to get our acts together with Abyss Actors. But before we continue, a quick reminder to please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed my content so far. We're on the road to 100,000 subscribers, and there's no better way to get there than on our duel runners. Our next stop is 40k, which means Leo and Luna Explained, where we'll be covering Ancient Fairy Dragon's companions, the Power Tool Dragons, Morphtronics, and any other cards that are more than meets the eye. Also, check out my Discord where Joel has found its way in from the Burning Abyss video. What in the heck is this supposed to mean? What's the joke? And my Twitch, where you can watch me put all my lessons to the test live with viewer duels. And if you want to go that extra mile, join my Patreon where you can get my videos early and help us reach these video milestones. Thank you all so much for watching, and now, back to the video. So what's the deal with Abyss Actors? Well, they're a series of dark attribute fiend type pendulum monsters that are generally pretty aggro. They have a lot of effects to boost your consistency, helping to keep your scales online so you can be on the beatdown. The interesting part comes from the Abyss Script spell cards that are all fairly good pieces of support when activated, but if they're destroyed by your opponent's card effect while they're set on the field, you get some truly outrageous bonuses, with effects ranging from drawing until you have 5 cards in hand to bouncing your opponent's entire field. So whenever you see a monster that makes your opponent destroy one of your spells and traps, now you know why. However, because they're so good, they do come with a little caveat. The grave effects only trigger if you have an Abyss Actor pendulum monster face up in your extra deck to prove that you're committed to the role. So without further ado, on with the show. First on stage is Abyss Actor Extras, a level 1 monster with 100 attack and defense and a scale of 3. As a pendulum spell, if your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon this card from your pendulum zone. And as a monster, you contribute it to place an Abyss Actor pendulum monster from your deck in your pendulum zone, but for the rest of the turn, you can't special summon monsters except Abyss Actors, nor can you activate the pendulum effect of extras. So you can use the pendulum effect to summon it, then tribute to set a scale, but if you tribute to set a scale first, then that's the end of the line. They're a pretty solid way to help you get the best pendulum scale for the job, but surprisingly doesn't do anything else, leading to a strange lack of extra features. Abyss Actor Funky Comedian is a level 1 monster with 300 attack and 200 defense, thus giving it Karibo stats, with a scale of 8. As a pendulum spell, once per turn, you contribute an Abyss Actor monster, then target an Abyss Actor monster you control, and it gains attack equal to the original attack of the tributed monster until the end of the turn, even if this card leaves the field. And as a monster, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can make this card gain 300 attack for each Abyss Actor monster you currently control until the end of this turn. And you can target one other Abyss Actor monster you control, giving it an attack boost equal to this card's current attack until the end of the turn, but this card can't attack the turn you activate this effect. Now, there's a very important distinction between this card's pendulum effect and its monster effect. The pendulum one that gives a boost checks original attack, which means you don't take boosts into account for the effect, but its monster effect checks current attack, which means it includes any buffs. So if you have a monster that, let's say, gains a bonus when it destroys a monster in battle, you can either scale Comedian, tributing an Abyss Actor so the other one may rise, or summon this to gain a bunch of attack power before gifting it to a more important attacker. Its stat line might make it look like a joke, but Funky Comedian is dead serious. Abyss Actor Trendy Understudy is a level 2 monster with 700 attack and defense and a scale of 8, and as a pendulum spell, when you pendulum summon a monster, you can add a face-up level 1 or 8 Abyss Actor pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. And as a monster, if you have 2 Abyss Actor cards in your pendulum zones, you can tribute this card to special summon a level 1 or 8 Abyss Actor pendulum monster from your hand or face-up from your extra deck. Now, back when pendulums had hit their midpoint, 1 and 8 scales were kind of the standard for pendulum decks that wanted to make it big, which in turn meant level 1 and 8 monsters were kinda left out in the cold. Trendy Understudy helps with this by getting those monsters out of your extra deck and onto the field, which is stupendous. But now that we have even higher and lower scales, this isn't much of an issue. We've also seen all the level 1 targets we have access to, and trust me, the level 8 pool is even smaller. Which is a real shame, but that's what you get for chasing trends. Abyss Actor Comic Relief is a level 3 monster with 1000 attack and 2000 defense with a scale of 8, and as a pendulum scale, you can target an Abyss Actor pendulum monster you control and a monster your opponent controls and switch control of both, then destroy this card. And as a monster, you take no battle damage from battles involving this card, and once per turn during your standby phase, give control of this card to your opponent. And once per turn, if control of this face-up card changes, activate this effect. The owner of this card can destroy a set Abyss Script spell in their spell and trap card zone. Wowzers! This card is unbelievable. As a scale, it's basically a creature swap that you have incredible control of, and it's even better if what you give your opponent is another copy of Comic Relief. Sure, you could also wait until your standby phase, but telegraphing that effect so far in advance isn't very savvy. And by doing this, you get carte blanche to trigger any Abyss script you have on hand, which can be backbreaking for your opponent, so I can't imagine any Abyss Actor deck nowadays sans comic. Abyss Actor Curtain Raiser is a level 4 monster with 1100 attack and 1000 defense with a scale of 7, and as a pendulum scale, if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your pendulum zone, but you can only use this effect once per duel. As a monster, this card gains 1100 attack if you control no other monsters, and once per turn you can send an Abyss Script spell from your deck to the grave to add a face-up Abyss Actor Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. Now, you might have seen this card as part of some other Pendulum builds, or really anything that loves turboing out level 4 monsters. And I can't blame them, it's hard to pass up a free summon like this, and it's certainly no slouch in our deck. In fact, we get to make even better use of it, as it can recover our Abyss Actors from the extra deck while getting your Abyss Scripts into the grave for later. Though, don't mistake that for them trying to be helpful. Curtain Raiser is very critical of any literature they get a hold of. It says they want to raise everyone's standards. Abyss Actor Leading Lady is a level 4 monster with 1500 attack and 1000 defense and a scale of 2, and as a pendulum spell, once per turn, when you take battle damage from an opponent's attacking monster, you can activate one of these effects. That opponent's monster loses attack equal to the damage you took, even if this card leaves the field, or add a face-up Abyss Actor Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand with an attack less than or equal to the damage you took. And as a monster once per turn, when battle damage is inflicted, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and it loses attack equal to that battle damage. And when this card is destroyed by a battle, or if this card in its owner's monster zone is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can set an Abyss Script spell directly from your deck. The Pendulum effect is a little... no matter what form of the attack reduction you trigger, it is permanent, so at least it'll have lasting effects. But it only works when the opponent attacks, which doesn't leave you any room to trigger it on your own. Like, say, crashing your monster into your opponent's. The monster effect, though, is pretty nutty, because it triggers on any battle damage, not just if you attack into a monster, but even if you inflict damage to your opponent. So you can hit over a smaller monster, do some damage, then debuff a monster that was too big to get over and make it way easier to clear. And its floating effect gives you a nice Abyss Script card to play with down the line. But don't get it twisted, all this lady does is drag others down rather than lift up their own team, which isn't a very good quality for a leader to have. Abyss Actor Liberty Dramatist is a level 4 monster with 1500 attack and defense with a scale of 8, and as a pendulum spell, when a monster declares an attack, you can discard a card to special summon this card to your opponent's field. That sounds like a pretty bogus effect, but it'll make sense when we consider its monster effect, which triggers when special summoned from the Pendulum Zone. This card's owner reveals 3 Abyss Script spells from their deck, and their opponent randomly picks one of them for this card's owner to set to their field, but it's destroyed during the end phase. Also, the rest are shuffled back into the deck. And if this card is destroyed, you can shuffle an Abyss Script spell from your grave into your deck, recycling it for later use. So the discard you use to special summon this card from the Pendulum Zone is replaced by the Abyss Script you set to the field, which will guarantee be destroyed during the end phase to get you one of those bonkers effects, though it is at the cost of giving your opponent a monster. This makes it best to trigger this on your own turn, because not only will you be able to destroy this in battle to keep your opponent from using it, you get to trigger the recycling effect. And as long as you can keep pendulum summoning this card out, you can keep recycling those spells. Just make sure you keep this monster on your good side, because they're a bit of a drama queen. Abyss Actor's Sassy Rookie is a level 4 monster with 1700 attack and 1000 defense with a scale of 2. And as a pendulum spell, if any number of Abyss Actor monsters you control would be destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can destroy this card instead. As a monster, the first time this card would be destroyed by battle or card effect each turn, it is not. And if this card is destroyed by battle, or if this card in its owner's monster zone is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Abyss Actor monster from your deck, except a copy of itself. And if this card in the Pendulum Zone is destroyed by anything, you can target a level 4 or lower monster your opponent controls and destroy it. I really dig this card. Not only can it help your board resist destruction, it's also got a variety of floating effects, which on a pendulum monster that you can keep bringing back to the field is pretty good. Just make sure you don't mix up which floating effect you get depending on where this actor is, because that would be a rookie mistake. Abyss Actor Twinkle Little Star is a level 4 monster with 1000 attack and defense and a scale of 9. As a pendulum spell, you can't pendulum summon except Abyss Actor monsters, an effect that can't be negated. You can also target an Abyss Actor monster you control, and this turn, it can make 3 attacks on monsters during each battle phase this turn. Also, other monsters you control can't attack for the rest of the turn, even if this card leaves the field. And as a monster, Twinkle Little Star can't be destroyed by battle during your turn, and can make up to 3 attacks on monsters during each battle phase. This card is so good. Not only does it facilitate the pendulum summoning of our admittedly single level 8 monster, though it is a really good level 8, it can also greatly benefit from having a multi-attack. And while this card's stats are low, boosting it with something like Funky Comedian could lead to some broken boards in no time. Not your board being mechanically broken, your opponent's board being broken wide open. In fact, I'd say that's the preferred method, because that way you don't lock yourself into only attacking with a single monster. This means that for Twinkle Little Star, we don't have to wonder what they are, we already know. A menace to society! Abyss Actor Wild Hope is a level 4 monster with 1600 attack and 1200 defense with a scale of 2. And as a pendulum spell, once per turn, you can target an Abyss Actor card in your other pendulum zone, and its scale becomes 9 until the end of this turn. Also, you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Abyss Actors, even if this card leaves the field. A bit more restrictive than Little Star, but it's nice to have options. As a monster, once per turn, you can make this card gain 100 attack for each Abyss Actor monster you currently control with different names until the end of the turn. And if this card is destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can add any Abyss Actor card from your deck to your hand. Once again, another huge banger. Great level, good scale, and while this card won't usually grow much in power, its floating effect can grab you any other Abyss Actor monster, as well as a couple of spells and traps. And because it's on a pendulum monster and triggers no matter who destroys it, as long as you keep scales up, you'll be getting your best card every turn, which is truly wild. Abyss Actor Mellow Madonna is a level 7 monster with 1800 attack and 2500 defense with a scale of 0. As a pendulum spell, you can pay 1000 life points to add an Abyss Actor pendulum monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of itself. Also, you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn, except Abyss Actor pendulum monsters, even if this card leaves the field. As a monster, this card gains 100 attack for each Abyss Script spell in your grave, And when a pendulum monster you control is destroyed by battle, not just an Abyss Actor one, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if an Abyss Script spell card or effect is activated, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Abyss Actor pendulum monster from your deck, but return it to the hand during the end phase. This is basically the deck's monkey board, representing full scales all by itself, though the restriction that it implies isn't nothing. While all of our main deck monsters are pendulums, we do have links that this effect locks you out of, so be mindful of your sequencing. As for its monster effects, they're alright. Mellow, being able to show up after one of your Abyss Actors are destroyed by battle, can be a lifesaver by throwing up a 2500 defense point wall, or an even bigger attack should you have enough scripts in grave, and getting a free monster just by using an Abyss Script spell, whether by activating it or triggering its grave effect, is always helpful, and with a scale of 0, even our level 1s can join in the fun. And don't even get me started on the level. Being 7 is a great fit with level 1 and 3 tuners for level 8 and 10 synchros, so in this synchro material world, Mellow Madonna is a really good synchro material girl. Abyss Actor Superstar is a level 7 monster with 2500 attack and 1800 defense with a scale of 3. As a pendulum scale, once per turn, you contribute an Abyss Actor monster, then target an Abyss Script spell card in your grave and add it to your hand. And when normal or special summoned, your opponent's spell and trap cards and effects can't be activated. And once per turn, you can set an Abyss Script spell directly from your deck, but it's sent to the grave during the end phase. A very solid monster for the theme, it either recovers you spells while as a scale by attributing a pendulum monster you can just revive later, or gets you a free Abyss Script spell every turn that you'll likely just be getting the activated effect on, while making your pendulum summon safe from the dreaded Bottomless Trap Hole or Torrential Tribute. Though it doesn't prevent the summons from being negated, so you'll still need to keep an eye out for Solemn Strike. It's not perfect, but it is super. Abyss Actor Evil Heal is a level 8 monster with 3000 attack and 2000 defense with a scale of 1. And as a pendulum spell, once per turn, you contribute an Abyss Actor monster, then target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and it loses attack equal to the attack of the tributed monster until the end of the turn, even if this card leaves the field. And as a monster, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and it loses 1000 attack for each Abyss Actor monster you currently control until the end of the turn. And when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can target an Abyss Script spell card in your grave and set that target. So in a lot of ways, this is the opposite of Funky Comedian. It's got a pendulum effect that debuffs a monster instead of buffing, and debuffs another monster on summon rather than buffing itself. And that's alright with me, because with 3000 attack, you can cause a lot more damage than you otherwise could. And it buys back your Abyss Script spells. And notice that there isn't a once per turn on that effect, making Evil Heal an amazing target for Twinkle Little Star's multi-attack effect. Honestly, the only thing that's got me off-center here is that it's using a wrestling term for an actor, and that doesn't make any sense. I mean, theater is obviously fake for entertainment purposes, but wrestling? Wrestling's real. Alright, now it's time for the Link monsters. Abyss Actor Hyper Director is a level 1 monster with 800 attack, requiring any Abyss Actor Pendulum monster as material. It can target a card in your Pendulum zone and special summon it, then place an Abyss Actor Pendulum monster with a different name from your deck or face-up extra deck to your Pendulum zone. But you can't normal or special summon for the rest of the turn, except to summon Abyss Actor monsters. This is an outrageously good way to get your scales set up. You can scale any Abyss Actor, summon it, then place Mellow Madonna in scale, which can then get your other scale. It's also another way to trigger Liberty Dramatist without discarding or giving it to your opponent, so that's pretty great. The downside is that it doesn't play very well with pendulums. It only gives you a single zone with that one arrow, and because you're locked into Abyss Actors after using the effect, you can't link climb into anything that would give you even more zones. Well, until recently, thank goodness. With the release of Photon Hypernova, we actually got a substantially helpful link too, so now this card is all upside. For Abyss Actors anyway, if you're off theme, don't expect to get a callback. This director is very nitpicky. Abyss Actor Super Producer is a Link 2 monster with 1600 attack, requiring any 2 monsters as material, including a Fiend type one. During the main phase, as a quick effect, you can target a face-up card you control, destroy it, then you can apply one of these effects. Either place an Abyss Playhouse Fantastic Theater from your deck to the field zone, trust me, this is amazing, or place an Abyss Actor Pendulum monster from your deck in your Pendulum zone. Now, in most cases, you're making this with Hyper Director and whatever monster you summon with its effect, so you've basically got your scales all set up. So generally, you'll want to get your field spell, but you can do some pretty tricky stuff on your way to setting up that perfect scale. For instance, Mellow Madonna can find you Wild Hope or Sassy Rookie instead of a scale 8 or 9. Then, Super Producer can pop that card in scale to get Twinkle Little Star, and then you can either search with Wild Hope or pop a level 4 or lower with Sassy Rookie. And if you want to remove Twinkle Little Star to Pendulum summon non-Abyss actors, just use Super Producer to swap them out for a more appropriate scale. This card does a silly amount of work for the theme. You could say it produces a lot of value. Alright, now it's time for our spells and traps, where the real magic happens. We're going to be mixing in the Abyss scripts here, so remember, to use their On Destruction effect while set, you must have a face-up Abyss Actor Pendulum monster in your extra deck, otherwise you won't get the part. Abyss Actor Dress Rehearsal is a normal spell card that, much like Pot of Extravagance, must be activated at the start of the main phase 1. It adds an Abyss Actor card and an Abyss Script spell from your deck to your hand, but you can't Pendulum summon for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, except Abyss Actor monsters. That's pretty tame though. Sure, you can't Pendulum summon any off-theme monsters you have, but every other form of summoning is still online, so your utility extra deck monsters are still intact. And for that minor annoyance, you get a +1 that grabs you whatever you need to get your plays started. Abyss Script Dramatic Story is a normal spell card that targets an Abyss Actor Pendulum monster you control, and special summons an Abyss Actor Pendulum monster with a different name from your deck. Then either place the targeted monster in your Pendulum zone, or destroy it. And if this set card and its owner's control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can return up to 2 cards on the field to the hand. A solid addition, letting you summon out any Abyss Actor you need while setting up your scales, or in the case of your floaters, get you more cards. Its Grave effect is also pretty neat. Non-targeting bouncing can not only disrupt your opponent's field, but can also put your own cards back in hand to recycle them if need be. Also, can we just appreciate how good those two look dancing? Evil Heel, of course, took ballet, so they were in the clear, but Mellow Madonna has come a long way since the season started. Good for them. Abyss Script Fantasy Magic is a normal spell card that targets an Abyss Actor monster you control, and this turn, every monster that battles it but is not destroyed is returned to the hand at the end of the damage step. And if the set card and its owner's control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can target a card your opponent controls and place it on top of their deck. Phoenix Wing Wind Blast is a pretty good side effect, and in the hands of the right actor, Fantasy Magic rules. It may cost you a lot of life points to do this, but put this effect on Twinkle Little Star and you can bounce up to 3 monsters, a great alternative to the Funky Comedian boost if you aren't able to get it, or it isn't enough. Or you have to deal with monsters that have destruction protection, or are from the extra deck. Though don't feel limited to only using this on Little Star. Technically, you can trade one of your monsters to compulse another for a bit of a 1 for 2, but you get your value back if you crash one of your floaters, making Fantasy pretty fantastic. But not the Playhouse, we'll get to that. Abyss Script Fire Dragon's Lair is a normal spell card that targets an Abyss Actor monster you control. If it destroys an opponent's monster this turn, your opponent banishes 3 monsters from their extra deck, their choice. And if this card is destroyed while set in its owner's control by an opponent's card effect, you can look at your opponent's extra deck, also banish 1 monster from their extra deck. This is pretty solidly a 1 of Abyss Script, as you need to have the right setup to make use of this. Like with Fantasy, this also has great synergy with our multi-attacking effects because it's not limited to triggering once per turn, so you can end up shredding a lot of your opponent's extra deck. And the On Destruction effect is pretty nice too, trading out quantity for quality, letting you make a surgical strike on your opponent's extra deck. However, it doesn't advance your game plan, so you're better off searching this once you know you can take full advantage of it. Besides, this looks more like an RPG strategy guide than a stage. Who approved this? Abyss Script Opening Ceremony is a normal spell card that gains you 500 life points for each Abyss Actor monster you control, and boy howdy do we love having a way to win in time. And if the set card is destroyed by an opponent's card effect while in its owner's control, you can draw until you have 5 cards in your hand. Yeah, so not only does this give you an edge when the clock ticks down to its final seconds, it can potentially refresh your entire hand. Now, this might sometimes activate at a bad time if your hand is chock full of cards you can't play, but good deck building and a little bit of luck can fix that. This card should probably have a different name because when the effect resolves, it's curtains for your opponent. Abyss Script Rise of the Abyss King is a normal spell card that targets face-up cards on the field up to the number of attack position Abyss Actor monsters with different names you control and destroys them. And if you control a level 7 or higher Abyss Actor monster, your opponent can't activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. And if this set card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can add up to 2 Abyss Actor cards and or Abyss Script spells with different names from your deck to your hand. This card is spectacular, no way around it. It's removal that can push through interaction if you have a high enough leveled monster. It's got flexible targeting requirements, so you never have to worry about having too many attack position Abyss Actors, though you certainly can pop your own cards if you want to, and its on destruction effect gives you some amazing searches. But the art seems a bit off, don't you think? Malakota isn't anywhere on this card. Abyss Script Romantic Terror is a quick play spell that returns an Abyss Actor Pendulum monster you control to the hand, and if you do, special summon from your extra deck in defense position one face-up Abyss Actor Pendulum monster with a different original name than the returned monster. And if this card in its owner's control is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can set any number of Abyss Script spells directly from your deck. So because the summoned monster has to be in defense position, you can't do any battle phase tricks with this, but it can help dodge interaction or just put a big body on board. And if you're able to trigger its on destruction effect, well, it's hard to see how you wouldn't win from that position. I love this card, but I agree, it's scary. Abyss Prop Wild Wagon is a continuous spell card, and the first time each Abyss Actor monster you control will be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not. And once per turn, you can target an Abyss Actor monster you control, and your opponent can't target it with card effects until the end of their turn, even if this card leaves the field. And while this card isn't an Abyss Script, it does have the same trigger when it's destroyed when set on the field by your opponent's card effect. This time, returning all cards your opponent controls to the hand. I'm starting to see why they made this card unsearchable, because yeah, this is stupid good. Pull this off with comic relief and you'll get the red carpet treatment right to your opponent's life points. And even if you can't do that, the protection is pretty nice too. It bites that this doesn't work with any of our cards that mention Abyss Scripts, but with all the powerful effects it has, it really does a lot to prop up the archetype. Abyss Script Abyss-tainment is a continuous spell card that lets you tribute an Abyss Actor monster to target an Abyss Script spell in your grave and set it to your field, something you're allowed to do up to twice per turn. And if this set card is destroyed by an opponent's card effect while in its owner's control, you can special summon any number of Abyss Actor Pendulum monsters from your deck. This is almost as devastating as Romantic Terror. Getting to fill your field with fiends, especially the ones of our caliber, is obscene. We've also been given the amazing option to trade in revivable pendulum monsters for permanent value, and twice per turn no less. Now, if someone can explain to me why a book is being hidden inside another book, I'd be eternally grateful. Is this like a secret tune card? Abyss Playhouse Fantastic Theater is a field spell card that lets you reveal an Abyss Actor Pendulum monster and an Abyss Script spell in your hand to add an Abyss Script spell from your deck to your hand with a different name than the revealed spell. And while you control a Pendulum summoned Abyss Actor Pendulum monster, any monster effect activated by your opponent becomes destroy a set spell or trap card your opponent controls. That's right, this card is a very interesting VFD. Because once you've set up the effect, this applies to monsters everywhere, not just on the field, but in the grave, hand, banished zone, whatever. And because it changes your opponent's monster effect, it's gonna be them who pops your set of Abyss Scripts, giving you oodles of advantage. Now, be careful though, since it can only be applied once per turn, only one resolving monster effect will be changed, so if your opponent has a lot of those, this card won't stop them for very long. But sometimes, one is all you need. And you get to search out a free card every turn if you meet the requirements, and we have some darn good Abyss Scripts to get a hold of. So you might want to consider ordering your tickets now, because this show is going to be a doozy. Abyss Actor's Backstage is a normal trap card that can only be activated if you have 2 Abyss Actor cards in your Pendulum zones. And it allows you to add 2 Abyss Actor Pendulum monsters with different names from your deck to your face-up extra deck. So it's a double Foolish Burial that requires complete scales. I think it's a good searchable one-of off of Wild Hope, and if your scales are big enough, you can just bring those monsters right out if it's your turn, as well as having the zones to summon them if your super producer is online. At the very least, it does set up your extra deck with an Abyss Actor, so the on-destruction effects of your Abyss scripts will trigger, setting the stage for future success. Abyss Actor Curtain Call is a normal trap card that you can activate if an Abyss script spell card or effect is activated this turn. You can add face-up Abyss Actor Pendulum monsters from your extra deck to your hand, up to the number of Abyss script spells in your grave. Then you can special summon Abyss Actor Pendulum monsters from your hand with different names, up to the number of monsters added to your hand by this effect. But you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Abyss Actor Pendulum monsters. Okay, so the lock does suck, but thankfully we do have a quick play Abyss script spell that allows us to do this on our opponent's turn, meaning we don't have to worry about the lock when it comes around to our turn. It also doesn't care about having set up scales, just the more scripts you have, the more summons you get. And since they all come out at the same time, Evil Heel and Funky Comedian get some massive payoffs, while Superstar will keep your opponent from responding, and you'll have plenty of fodder for comic relief to use its effect. And because it's a normal trap card, an encore performance is only a trap trick away. Alright, that's all the Abyss Actor cards, but what do we do with them? Well, Pendulum Aggro is kind of our only option, backed up by a whole stable of haymakers. So we want to play as many equalizers as possible to break the board, keep our opponent from establishing their game plan, then bring it all together in a satisfying third act thrashing. So what can we play to help them out? First, let's talk pendulums. While a lot of our cards lock out non-Abyss Actor monsters, for when we can summon beyond the Actors Equity Association, we will want to lean on Beyond the Pendulum, providing you with a search and possible removal. Pazuzu is another Dark Fiend Pendulum monster that does keep your Pendulum summons from being negated, very nice. And Duelist Alliance can search you all kinds of niche cards, from Pendulum Treasure to load up your face-up extra deck, Pendulum Xyz or Fusion to do weird extra deck shenanigans, but my favorites are Pendulum Switch, it's another way to summon Liberty Dramatist from your Pendulum Zone, while being able to use your monsters as Pendulum Scales, and Pendulum Area. True, your Link monsters can get in the way of using this, but remember that Super Producer can destroy any face-up card you control, including itself, so they can clear themselves out right away. After all of their contributions are backstage, they don't need to be up here with the actors. Then, your opponent can only special summon via Pendulum Summoning during their turn, and really, who's doing that nowadays? Valence? Come on. Oh, and of course we can't forget Archfiend Eccentric. I mean, they truly do embody Theater Kid energy. And their repeatable spell and trap and monster removal, so there's that. Speaking of which, what about Fiend support? Well, I'm gonna include Archfiend's Ghastly Glitch here in another episode because this card is nutty. On-demand spot removal is kinda hard to pass up. There's also Fiendish Rhino Warrior, and while this card is known more for its contributions in Burning Abyss, it also makes great accompaniment to any Fiend deck, providing destruction protection. And because you can sometimes just Pendulum Summon this onto the board, you won't have to worry about wasting your normal summon on it. This also means Tour Guide is a great pick here, not only unlocking the rank 3 pool, but also helps you make Super Producer really quickly. Alternatively, you can summon Comic Relief with Tour Guide to make Hyper Director first. Muckraker is also a great Link monster to recover any Abyss Actors that wind up in your grave, and works especially well if you get it in the main monster zone for that sweet side arrow for better Pendulum summons. And of course, I always encourage the usage of Unchained where you can fit them in. Heck, they also have spells and traps that trigger when they're destroyed while being set, though granted, those cards can be popped by your own effects to get their triggers, while the Abyss scripts do need your opponent to do it, but they are thematically unified. However, a new card you might not have heard of is Salamander Catalyzer. It can help you put your fiends from your hand onto the board, helping you get out Superstar and Evil Heel when scales are sparse, and if any of your fiends destroy a monster by battle, you can just put Salamander right back into your hand. This means you can use the effect again on a later turn, or you can use it as fodder for things like Forbidden Droplets. As for other support cards, well, I don't want to be that guy, but we could play Floodgates. Now, because we're a Pendulum deck, we're already playing with effectively dueling-sized zones, so playing Floodgates alongside other cards we want to set and have get destroyed by our opponent may seem counterintuitive, but keeping your opponent on the back foot is just that important. Rivalry and Gozen are already really strong for us because we're a Dark Fiend deck, but what I really like is Summon Limit. It only counts the number of summons, not the monsters being summoned, so you can bring out a ton of monsters under a single pendulum summon, which is really funny. Mystic Mine is also really good in our deck, as we get to use all of our pendulum spell effects, and Abyss Script Abyss King can pop it whenever we're done with it, alongside any floodgates we're tired of using. As for a silly tech pick, why not try Dust Tornado? Look, Cosmic Cyclone is running rampant, and while our Abyss scripts can trigger if they're banished, they'd have to be destroyed as well. However, we can't get those on destruction effects if we don't commit them to the board. However, Dust Tornado solves that problem in a very Junior Journey kind of way. It gives you incidental back row removal, and if your opponent drops a Harpy's Feather Duster, Lightning Storm, or a board wipe that destroys cards, use Dust Shoot in response if you can, then sneak an Abyss script from your hand onto the board and then it'll get blown up. Then whammo, your opponent's gonna feel a little silly trying to make that safe play. And that's all I have to say about Abyss Actors. The new cards add a strong dimension of consistency to an already pretty beefy deck. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, it's not gonna stand toe-to-toe with the dreaded Sprite tier matchups at time of recording, but with a variety of game-ending threats hiding behind innocuous play sequences, you have a deck that can take over the game out of nowhere. So if you're looking to take on the top tables in style, each round using this deck is gonna be a round of applause. But now, I want to hear what you all have to say. Are Abyss Actors due for a revival tour, or are they still not getting those rave reviews? And if you've gotten this far, who's your favorite Abyss Actor? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to see which discipline of the dramatic arts is your favorite, and if you haven't already, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to show your support, ring that bell so you don't miss an episode, and share this video with someone you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode was brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commander Harry, the ominous benefactor, Nebula Navigator's 3rd Dynasty, Adam Zajdel, Avi Chali, Kane Senpai, Cameron Berg, Cozy Boat 275, Eric, Frankie, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh!, Gloomba 331, Great Big Pillock, Ironic, John Manji, Julius Sneezer, Larakia, Mana Charge, Marluxia is a girl, Meteornus, Michael Madsen, Mighty Action X, Muzuki Clark, Neo Trinity, Panther J, Rebel King Lucifer, Rem T Bright, RJ the Jank Monarch, Ruxith Sarani, Sophie, apparently, The Fresh Prince of Conair, The Wizard Moose, True Neutral, Xander Wolfensberger and Xyrus, Cosmic Crusaders Ariel Kersey, Bear Sharktopus Studios, Chaz Ghost, Chris Kessler, Corbinisms, Dallas Modeste, Emily, Eva Padilla, Howling Zangetsu, Herbal D, Jesus Garcia, Kale the Dragon, King Scarlet Yu-Gi-Oh!, Lord Whoop-De-Doo, Manga Pages, Marion James E. Picata, Matt Simmons, Nitromo, Sarah Lo Sulshi, Shaquille Solomon, Shooting Star 3300, Star-Lord 777, Super Purd, Tucker Ordorn and the Legendary Raven, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. I'm only able to continue doing this thanks to the support of these lovely people, so if you'd like to be a part of these credits, as well as help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, please check out my YouTube membership or Patreon links in the description to see if I have anything you'd like on offer. And if you want to see another video featuring an archetype that has massive theater kid energy, check out this video I did covering Despia. And if you want to see two Yu-Gi-Tubers going at it, check out Noah Jenk and I's latest series progression polls, where your voice shapes the format.